Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How's everyone doing today? Excellent. Great. It's great to be here with all of you. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time this morning. My name is Uri Mann, and it's really a pleasure to be here with all of you. And I've given this talk to hundreds of people. Actually, it's probably definitely over 1,000. This first time I'm doing it here at the Miami Rescue Mission, so I'm excited to share some of the knowledge that I've learned over the years from pursuing jobs, basically. I'll tell you a little bit about my story so you can get a sense of how this all happened for me, like helping people find work. When I was in college, I was trying to look for a job, and I found that, I had this idea that I was going to put a lot of effort into it, but I would send out just resumes and get turned away. Basically get no response or get a letter in the mail saying, "Hey, we're not interested." For whatever reason. Thank you. We'll keep your resume on file. We'll keep your information on file. And I think I remember when I was in college, I was still in college. I was studying, and I probably sent out my resume to maybe 500 companies, and almost all of them kind of like sent me letters saying we weren't interested. I did get a few interviews, but it was very inefficient. And over time, I started developing a system based on things that I've learned from other people looking for jobs, and to the point that eventually, when I was in graduate school, I was able to get a job offer from all top 5 of the 5 investment banks in New York City, like Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, Credit Suisse, all these big firms. And I became the only student in the graduate program that got a job offer from all 5. So of course, when people hear that you got these job offers, they say, "How did you do it?" They're students just like me. Many of them had better grades than me. Many of them had better educational backgrounds than me, like they had studied at better colleges. Many of them had, why did you get these job offers? I'm a little charming, but I'm not the most charming guy, so I started writing down everything that I had done in the past to help the other students, basically. And I wrote down a paper. I created like a 10-page document. And because what happened is these students would want to meet with me to ask me, "How did you do it?" So I started writing a paper, and then I realized that, I would make this other students read it. I said, "Before you meet with me, at least read it so you could see all the things that I did while I was looking for a job." And then eventually I started teaching at Florida Atlantic University, and I would help other students that were my students to use this kind of thought process about how to look for a job. So with that being said, what I would like to do, if you don't mind, my name is Uri. I'm originally from Boca Raton, Florida, right here. I live in Miami. And I would love it if we could just go around the room. And I'm a real estate developer. By the way, that's what I do now professionally. I build communities. What I'd like to do is just go around the room. If everybody could just say their name, where they're originally from, and maybe the last job that they held. It doesn't matter when it was. We don't need to know when it was. But if we could do that, that would be very interesting for me to hear. So would you like to start here, sir? Okay, very good. Well, it's a very diverse background. People have had a lot of very interesting jobs. So the important thing is you all realize you're not starting from zero. Everyone has had work, and that's really important. And have you all become like friends in terms of being part of this classroom? Do you all get to know each other?
Oh, absolutely. We're all Alpha brothers.
You're Alpha? Okay, you're all Alpha brothers?
We go through a lot of phases of this program together, so yes.
Okay.
We're all very close.
Okay, great. So you get to know each other.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Well, so today the lecture is all about, if everyone has a copy of this?
Yes.
Okay, great. Normally I would use a PowerPoint, but we don't have a presentation today, so we're just going to use this document. The goal here is really to empower all of you to continue to build your confidence because you've been in this great program and now you're close to graduating. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you're basically the next step is interviewing, mock interviewing, and then you're graduating. Okay, and I want to help you with some tips about creating effective resumes. And by the way, after this class, I'm going to forward an electronic copy of my book. Nobody has to buy it. So everybody has a copy of the book through your instructor. So you'll get an electronic copy of my book, PDF, much easier than having to carry a book around. And we'll talk a little about networking, how to network strategically, and also some tips for interviewing successfully, basically to all the things that I've learned from interviewing. So if you go to the next page here, I want to talk a little bit about uh, why companies interview people, okay? And anybody here have an idea, like why are companies interviewing people? What are the big reasons companies are interviewing people?
See if you'd be a good fit.
To see if you're going to be a good fit, yes.
Yeah. If you'll fit in with their model and,
Yes.
and those that they already have on staff or employed.
Okay, yes.
To weed out a bad candidate from a good candidate.
To weed out a bad candidate from a good candidate, absolutely, yes.
To get them to know them on a personal level more.
To get to know them on a personal level, yes. Anything else?
They want to know if you're qualified.
Okay, they want to know if you're qualified. So that's exactly right. So you all have said everything except for the one other reason. So we'll talk about it. They want to know if you're qualified and capable, right? So what does it mean qualified and capable? So capable, unless you're looking to be a surgeon or an attorney or an engineer, which really has a lot of technical knowledge, most people are capable of doing most jobs. So they do use the interview process to see if you're capable by looking at the way you answer questions to see if you have communication skills. And that's really important. Qualified, again, this is something that people look for. Are you qualified? They want to understand if you have done things in the past that make them think that you're going to be a hard worker. Okay? So like today, like they'll see that you finished this program and that you put all the effort into this program, and that will give them a certain level of confidence that you have put in an effort and you have completed something satisfactory, right? So that gives an employer an idea that this is somebody who's going to, if they get the job, stick around. So one of the really important reasons they want to see that you're capable is because they are going to invest a lot of money in you. So most of us think, okay, we're going to take a job and we're going to help a company make money, right? And so that's like the normal mentality is to think we are going to be working for somebody else who is going to make a lot of money, and we're going to be a job. But the reality is, practically speaking, when companies hire people, they are going to invest a lot of time and money. It costs them a lot of money to train you in practically anything you do, because even if you have experience directly working in air conditioning, or you have directly experience working as an engineer, or working in some capacity, you still are going to be trained by the way that they want you to do it, right? So they're going to invest time and energy and money that somebody's going to have to pay somebody to teach you, especially in the first year, maybe first years on the job. There's constantly people in the company showing you how to do things. That's just how it works. You know, there's going to be somebody who tells you what to do and maybe somebody who shows you what to do. And sometimes you just have to learn by looking, but they are investing a lot of money. And what they don't want is to spend money on somebody who leaves in 2 months or 6 months or 8 months. But then they have to start all over again. And that is going to reduce the bottom line, the profitability of their company. They want the company to be successful, and they don't want to spend money over and over again training people that leave. So that's what the interview process is. They want to make sure that if they're hiring somebody and taking somebody into the company, that they are investing the money in the right person, okay? And then they want to see if you fit the culture, right? They want to understand, is this person going to get along with people here at the company? And what a company culture, doesn't matter, any company, they want to understand, some people used to say, like, if you're working in a company, it's great if you get along with people because then you're also having fun, right? So they don't want to hire somebody necessarily that they think is going to be a pain to be with. So they want to see that you're that you're going to fit within the culture of the company. And then and then of course we talked about being qualified. So your job when you're looking for trying to get a position in a company is to not give them a reason to say no, okay? And only give them reasons to say yes. And you think about those three things, like when they're interviewing you, when they're thinking of considering you, that these people are going to spend money interviewing you, investing in you, that they want to see if you're capable and qualified. And the other thing that we didn't talk about is they want to really know that you want this position, okay? And that is part of investing money in a person who just joins a company, because they want to know that you really want it. Because if you come off as somebody that is not sure that they want to work for the company, or not sure that they want to have this specific position, then they think that there's a much better chance that you might give up on it after a few months. But if they think, okay, that it's your dream to be at this job and it's the next logical step in your career and it's everything you've wanted, if they believe that, they're more likely to make the investment in you, because they don't think that you're going to leave after 6 months. So part of your job when you're interviewing with people is to make sure that they think this is the next logical step in your career. And you can even use those words in interviewing. You know, you can say, I truly believe that taking this position is like the next logical step in my career, when as part of your answer as to why you want to work somewhere. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So let's go to the next page here. So I want to talk about some key pieces of information that will make a very big difference when you are looking for a job. Okay, because at the end of the day, what I want to be here for, I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here just to give you tips and strategy that will make a difference in helping you find a job and securing a job. Okay, and you will see that when I talk about these things, this is not about talent or having charm. It's basically a system, and if you do these things, the chances of you getting a job go up much, much more. And that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, it's statistics. So, how many of you are single? Okay, single. All right, very good. So, you know, if you talk to a woman and you try to get their numbers, right? It takes time before you may have to talk to many of them. So, but if you start developing a certain way to do it, you will eventually get someone's phone number. Here, when you apply for many jobs, but you use the system, we want to create a success rate that's higher. Okay, so the first thing is, remember to bring copies of your resume to an interview. Okay, I will tell you that, and I've interviewed hundreds of people, that 90% of them don't bring a copy. Okay, because they've submitted their resume, they think the person has it. And don't forget, people are just unorganized. So there's a very good chance that the interviewer who is about to interview you doesn't have a copy of your resume. Okay, and therefore, it's very important for you to bring multiple copies, not just one. One, because you want to have it in front of you while you're interviewing, so you can see so you can remember the things that you want to talk about yourself. And second of all, you want to have a resume to hand out to people. It makes you look organized. So that's really important. Make sure you have more than, you can even bring 5 or 10. There's always a small chance that you get multiple people that have to meet you. And if you show up and you have a folder with resumes that you can hand to people during the interview process, if they make you meet more than one person, then you'll have multiple opportunities to show people that you came organized with documentation. The next thing is to practice your personal story. Okay, a lot of people don't realize, but when you're speaking to somebody, it's in a way a little bit like acting. You know, you need to make sure that you tell an interesting story when you talk to people about yourself, and be able to tell it in a short period of time. So what I recommend everybody is that you have a generic story about yourself in chronological order, okay, where you talk about who you are, right? And you need to write it down first, maybe, and time it, and then say it in the mirror over and over again, so you can see the way you look and the way you talk. Now, one of the things that people find when they go to interview is that you become very nervous, right? The people here, how many people get nervous when they go to interview? Okay, yeah. Okay, so by practicing like this, you will lower the nervousness. Okay, now getting in front of the mirror, and then also do it even in front of a friend, okay, or in front of one of your colleagues here or classmates from the room. So, but doing it in front of the mirror, you can see the way that you speak, and doing it over and over again, you become a master in telling the story about yourself. So that's really important. And then you can always change the story up a little bit depending on who you're interviewing with or what's going on. And you can ask the people that you're talking to a little bit about them too, which helps you with your interviewing. So one of the effective things that I find in interviewing is that normally these people that are interviewing you are interviewing maybe a dozen people, okay, that have come in or more in the same day for the same job. So they're tired of interviewing, right? Imagine, put yourself in their shoes. They're sitting at a desk. These people are coming in. Now they have to ask the same questions over and over again. They don't know if this person is going to feel like a weirdo in the room with them privately or feel like a easygoing person, or they're going to like them. So you take the stress off the interviewer by offering this story about yourself, which is a very quick story, which is easy for you to tell. And normally when I start an interview, I will always say to the person who's interviewing me, hey, would you mind if you'd like, I could just tell you a little bit about myself before you start asking the questions. And like 99% of it, unless they have some rigid rules, they will say, that's great, because now they can sit back, relax, and listen to you talk, and they didn't even have to ask you anything. They just can enjoy their coffee, and now you're going to tell them the 2 to 3 minute story. And you pay attention to, as they're listening to you, whether you want to make the story a little bit longer or keep it really 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 4 minutes, but you want to have a story about yourself that's in chronological order. So I'm from this location. I was born here. I grew up here, currently living here, and my last job was this, and this and that, and a little bit about yourself. And it's okay to brag when you're interviewing. So a lot of people say, it's a little bit strange to, if there's something that you want to say about yourself and you want to brag, it feels a little bit like obnoxious to talk about yourself. It's very unusual, like not many people are just sitting down across from somebody and saying, this is everything, this is who I am, this is what my expertise is. So you can use sentences like, my family taught me to be humble, but I know this is an interview, so I think it's important that I tell you these things about myself, these things that I've accomplished. Okay, so we talked about practicing in the mirror. And then types of questions that people will ask you. So today you've got ChatGPT, you've got Google, you can use lots of resources to figure out what are the types of questions that this person might ask me. But one of the things that's important to know is that many interviewers, more than 50%, will ask a question about weakness. What are your weaknesses? And this is a question that's pretty interesting because people are hesitant to say what their weaknesses are because they don't want to look bad in an interview and somebody else doesn't have weaknesses. But here, this is a great opportunity for you to show that you have maturity and that you've identified something in your life that's a weakness and that you've taken steps to improve on that. So that's the point. That's a really important part of answering the question. So somebody can say, I in the past, maybe I've been too focused on details and I don't see the big picture. So I've been working on that, or I've been taking a course at Carnegie Mellon that helps me with time management, or another, it really depends. Or maybe you could say, if English is not my first language, I know that's a weakness of mine, but in the last few years I've taken these courses and read these books to help me improve my English. Or business vocabulary, I was never very strong. You need to come up with something that gives you the ability to show that you recognize it's your weakness, but you've also taken significant steps and continue to take steps to improve on that weakness. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, great. Now, in interviewing, one of the things that the company wants to know is that we talked about this idea that you really want to show them that you want this job, okay? And by showing up for an interview, obviously there's some level of commitment there. You've showed up for an interview, but you need to communicate to them in a way that makes them feel like this is the next logical step in your career. And so part of that is coming to a meeting and knowing about the company and perhaps even knowing about the person that's interviewing you. So I always recommend, if you're interviewing for any job, that You learn everything you can about the company through their websites, and also learn about the competition for those companies. Anything that will make you seem like you really are very interested in that position. And even if you're not that interested in the position, we don't care. We want you to get the job offer, correct? So fake it until you make it is the name of the game. If you're not sure you're even interested, you still want to seem like you're interested, okay? So a lot of people come to me and they say, I have this job just interview and I'm not sure if I want to work for this company. So I'm just going to go, and I'm like, don't do that. Don't show up to an interview without looking like you really, really want the job, because there's no point in going and not putting your best foot forward and not really, if there's an opportunity for you to learn about the company in time and come there and look like you really want this job. That goes back to one of the three things that we talked about. Companies want to know that you want this position. They want to know that you want to work in the company because they're investing in you. So you really need to learn about the companies and their competitors, and even perhaps the person that's interviewing you. Okay, so one of the questions that people ask in an interview is like, why do you want to work here? And if you can say something like, well, my impression from having read through the website of your company and compared it to these other two companies, which are also in your field, is that your company is more focused on these types of clients, and I really like that. Or when you use the sentence, my impression from having done X, Y, and Z, from reading your website, or from having talked to other people at the company, or from having read news articles about the company, when you can say my impression from having done that, that will have a big impact on showing them that you have really seriously considered this company and you really want to work there because you've done the research, okay? And that will separate you from somebody else who maybe wants the very same position but didn't read about the company, didn't read about their competition, didn't know who the person was interviewing you. So you need to think about these interviews and these jobs as like you are in the FBI or the CIA and you are trying to get information to make you seem extremely knowledgeable when you come in. So if you knew the name of the person who was interviewing you, you should put them in Google and find out what you can find out about them. Okay? You should look on LinkedIn and see what you can find about that person. If you had specific names, even if you don't have specific names, you might still look for the person who's in the HR, the person who's head of the department, and see if you can read about them way before the interview so you can meet with them. And you never know what you find out about somebody when you interview about them, right? Like one of the things, for example, if I interview and I went to college in Michigan, and I might read that the person went to a college that's also in the Midwest. So I know I'm going to mention that I went to school in the Midwest. And that's why I really, and that will create some sort of camaraderie between you and the person interviewing you. So you want to try to find ways to talk about things that make them identify with what you're speaking about in the interview. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. By the way, also I wanted to mention, while we're here today, you can raise your hand and interrupt me and ask any questions you want. And of course, at the end, there'll be room for discussion points and questions. But so again, this whole concept of answering questions with, hey, why do you want to work in this company? And you can say, well, my impression from having gone through your website, or my impression from having looked at your company and these two other companies, which I got the impression are your direct competitors, is that your company is more geared to this or that. Okay. Number 6 here. Another question that everyone seems to receive these days, and this is part of diversity programming, is they want to know when you've had an opportunity to work in a diverse environment. What does that mean? They want to know that that you're not a bigot, not a racist, that you are generally get along with people of all kinds of backgrounds, and so they will ask you a specific question. Many people do this. I would say more than 50% of people interviewing, when they have a long list of questions, will include a question of, give me an example of when you worked with a diverse group of people and what the experience was like. Okay, and this is so you need to prepare an answer for this. Okay, these are one of the questions that you need to prepare an answer for is learn about the question and how you can answer it from your own experience. Well, when I worked here, I worked with people. This person barely spoke English. This person was from this part of the country. This person was this part of the country. We all worked as a team. What was my role? And we were able to work together because we all focused on our common goals. And I actually enjoy working with people of different cultures and backgrounds. So that's important. Expect questions about diversity and teamwork. Before your interview, you should identify 2 to 3 things that you are proud of in your background. Okay, because most people will ask you a question: what are your strengths, or what have you accomplished, or things of that nature while you're getting interviewed. So you, again, just like we have a little story that we tell in the mirror about ourselves, which might be 2 to 5 minutes, we want to be able to tell a story about something that we're proud of. And here, when we're talking about things that we're proud of, it's also very important to use signposting when you're talking about more than one thing. Does anybody know what signposting is?
No.
Okay, so, and I did a bad job of this today. So what is signposting? Signposting is telling everybody, getting them ready for the answer that you're going to provide by giving them a sort of outline before you do it. So I could have started this meeting today, and I should have said, which I didn't do, which is, hey, today I'm going to give you a lecture. I'm going to talk about 5 things. Okay, I'm going to talk about some tips for getting a job. We're going to go through resumes. We're going to go through interviewing. We're going to go through some tips and tricks, and then we're going to have an opportunity for questions and answers. If I do that, immediately in your brain, you're thinking, okay, we're in part 1. I'm 20% through this. I'm almost, it helps you adapt to staying focused on the lecture, right? So in the interview, you do the same sort of thing. They say, hey, can you tell me about something that you're proud of? And you can say, well, yeah, I'm proud of this, and I want to tell you 3 reasons I'm proud of it. And then you go through the 3 reasons. They will stay way more focused on your answers if you give them this outline before, or you mention to them that there's 3 things that you want to talk about. And depending on the kind of answer, signposting is very important in interviewing because you keep the attention of the person interviewing you. Yes, sir.
What you been speaking about, with example, a signpost would be like, for instance, 3 points that you speak about. If I have Pastor him, Pastor, like, for instance, this pamphlet here.
Yes.
Would that be signpost if I was to get this pamphlet to every person that's in front of me, explain what I'm doing?
No, that would be like physically giving somebody an outline. I'm talking about just verbally when you're verbally when you're speaking. Verbally when you're speaking, it's much easier for somebody who's following your answer if they know that there is an end to your answer. So they know up front, if you say to them, what are your weaknesses, and somebody says, well, my English is not my first language, and I'd like to tell you 3 things I've done to improve on my English, and then you go through those 3 things. So that gives them an outline. See how I said English is not my first language, but I've done 3 things to improve my English, and I'd like to go over them, and then you tell them those. Yes, sir.
Could we use body language like gestures during an interview?
Absolutely, yeah. Body language is very important, and not something that I was going to go over today because I know they're going to do that in mock interviews, but body language is very important, and matching the body language of the person that's interviewing you can be very helpful. So if they're sitting in a certain way and it's comfortable for you to sit in the same way, can be helpful. If they're focused on you, depending on this space, matching the body language of the person that you're interviewing, if it's appropriate, can be very helpful. Now, if they're an interviewer and they're like, you're not going to do that. They might interview like that. I one time had a guy interview me and he asked me during the interview if I could scratch his back because he had an itch. And you yeah, yes, sir.
That's interesting.
Yes, yes, sir.
What would be the best mock interview to sit down in the chair when the interviewer invites you to the office? Like, fold your hand or?
Yeah, you know,
Or you just,
whatever feels natural. I mean, like, you know, when I sit down for an interview, I mean, I think it's, you know, whatever feels natural. You know, you can be. Another thing is if you have a copy of your resume in your hand, you're holding it, so that's a comfortable thing for you to have in your hand. You have your resume, or you're looking at it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There's not like one rule as to what feels right, but basically just sitting like this is fine. Sitting like, you know, hands on your lap is also okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Follow up. So, sorry, we didn't. Let's see. Identify 2 or 3 accomplishments you're proud of. Okay, so we talked about the fact that it's important to identify 2 or 3 accomplishments that you're proud of, so you're able to speak about them. And you can exaggerate some of your stories. You can. Sometimes people just need to make up a story. You know, like it's that's okay also, because if you don't have all the answers, at the end of the day, you just want to have information that will make them look like you've thought through the questions that they're going to ask you and that you have good answers. Don't rush to answer every question. This is something that makes people look smarter. Okay, when somebody asks you a question, and let's say you've prepared it, you have a great answer, right? And they might ask you a question. Hey, can you tell me about your weakness, right? Now, if you immediately start answering the question because you had it prepared, and you just start talking, that's like, okay, that's one way to answer. But if you take like a few seconds, say, let me think about it, and you come back to them like with a 5-second delay, hey, let me think about it, and then you start answering, this gives them the impression that you're a thoughtful person, okay? And this is something that I've used regularly when you interview, is you may have a great answer, and sometimes you have a really great detailed answer that you know you want to give, but by taking the time to stop, the person here who's watching you now thinks that you're very thoughtful and that you're giving it some time, and you have the maturity to think about your answer before you give it, right? So I would only do that maybe one time during the interview. You don't do that like multiple times on every question, but at least once if you have the opportunity to say, let me think about that, and you take, and then you start answering like that, this will give the person an impression that you are thoughtful and you have the maturity to think about the question and the answer. Okay. Let's see. Handwritten thank you cards. Okay. This is a great tool that really differentiates people, because let's say there's 10 people that got interviewed. First of all, many of them will not even write a thank you email. Okay, but a lot of people will write a thank you email if they were able to get the business card and the email of the person interviewing. So if you can, and it's appropriate, try to always get the business card of the person who interviewed you so that you can thank them afterwards, because you may not remember their names. You may not remember everything you talked about. By having their business card, you ask them for the business card. A lot of times, sometimes they don't have business cards. That's okay. But can I get your email? You know, anything you'd like you don't ask for their cell phone number, obviously, but you want to be able to send them a thank you afterwards. So people are finishing college and graduate school, most of them will just send a thank you email, right? And thank you emails, especially if they're interviewing 10 people for one job, or sometimes they interview more than that, the person who interviewed is not even going to read it. You know, I mean, they're so busy with work, they might read it, but they're most likely just going to scan or delete it. And they're not even going to remember who wrote them a thank you letter and who didn't. But if you go to CVS and you buy those very inexpensive thank you cards that are about this size, okay, they just say thank you on the top. Any drugstore has them. They usually come in boxes of 10. And you write them a thank you letter, not a long one, just a simple thank you letter, then that will sit on their desk. And when it gets to the time of them making a decision on who to hire, they will remember your name and that you cared so much that you sent this thank you letter. So, and this is all about, again, showing them that you really want the job, right? So you went out of your way to a store, bought a thank you card, and wrote them a handwritten thank you letter. They know you didn't do copy paste, They know that you didn't draft it with ChatGPT and send it to them. They know you might have still drafted with ChatGPT, but they at least see that you care about the time that they spent with you, and it sits on their desk. All right. So this is also an old trick for interviewing with older people, because they remember when people used to send thank you cards, and almost nobody does today. And people say, well, then I have to, and you don't even have to send it by post. So if you can do it, sometimes I would tell people, bring the thank you cards with you. Just keep them in your briefcase, and when you're done with the day of interviewing, just go to your car, write the thank you cards, and bring it back to the receptionist and drop it off. Okay? You don't have to send it in the mail, and that way they get it right away, because maybe tomorrow they're making the decision on who to interview. Correct? Maybe tomorrow, maybe it's next week, but if you send it in the mail, maybe it arrives 3 days later. But thank you cards can have a huge positive impact on whether you're going to get a job. And this I know because even people I interviewed with, I remember I got a job and I went to work there, and the people I interviewed with, like 3-4 years later, they still had it on their desk. Okay, the thank you card. I saw it on their desk, and one of them even like joked around with me after like 5 years. Hey, look, here's the thank you card you sent me 5 years ago when you started working here. So thank you cards can be a really positive way of bringing back this old school mentality of what people used to remember when they interviewed, because most people who are much older than you, if they're working there, they might have done that themselves. So and it's a big differentiator. Okay. So we talked about signposting already. Now let's talk about follow-up. So this is how long do you think it takes to get a good job? What do people think? Give me a time frame, anybody.
Anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks.
2 to 4 weeks, yes? What do you think?
I don't know. To get a good job, I think it's going to be a couple of weeks of follow-up and working through it.
Yeah.
I've gone through the process and it's taken over a month.
Yeah.
I think it takes 3 months for a government position.
Okay. Well, the average time in the United States between the time you interview and the time people get a job is much longer. It can be months. Okay. So, and you have to be prepared for this kind of mentality, because it's very important to us, people who are looking for a job. We want the job tomorrow, right? But these companies will take their time. They will get back to you. They have so many things going on, companies do, that hiring may not be a priority. And so you have to remember that patience is very important, and it can take a very long time before they actually make you a job offer. And then even if they tell you we don't have a position open right now, you may want to stay in touch with the people that are interviewing you. So one of the ways to make sure that people feel like they should hire you in the future is to engage in the person that interviewed you in a way that makes them feel like they are your mentor, and they are the only one who is your mentor. So how do you do this? The amount of effort that's involved in making people feel like they are your mentor is not that great. Okay, I'm going to tell you some ways to do it. So one of the things that you can do, let's say you had the interview and you sent them the thank you letter. Okay, now it's been 3 weeks, no job offer, no communication. Maybe you send one email saying, just following up to see how my application is going with the company. And another thing that you can start doing is every couple of months, you might find some way to interact with the person. So one way would be, for example, let's say you had a discussion about something specific in your interview and you remember it. Or let's say you're interviewing with a HVAC company, or you're interviewing with an engineering company. You might find an article online that's specifically related to what you discussed in the interview. And then again, you're going to write a handwritten note, print it out, a handwritten note on top of it. Say, hey, John, I remember we talked about this during the interview. I thought I would send you this article because I thought you might find it interesting. And you send that to them in the mail. All right. By the way, I would love to meet with you for coffee to get your advice on some of the things I'm doing. And you can meet with them for coffee again, even though they're not interviewing you, and make them feel like they are the person who's mentoring you and teaching you, and you care about them because you're sending them information directly related to things that you discussed. Okay, so staying in touch and follow up. There's lots of ways of following up with people. Okay, here now we're on the next page. Effort. Okay, effort and systems. So when I used to tell people, like, what is the hardest thing that you've ever done, the amount of effort that you've ever spent, I would make people think about that. You know, like some people would say it was basic training in the Army, or it was I worked on this project for a year, or I tried to get this degree, or I spent these months on this project. But everybody has something in their mind that they remember that they put a lot of effort into. Okay? Now, I tell people, like, when you're looking for work, you know, and you want to get a good paycheck, you have to remember those types of efforts that you put in and double that for your job. It's not as simple as just sending out your resume. You really want to think about this as like a sales funnel and a system where you are going to be spending a lot of energy looking for work, because a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to send some resumes out. I'm going to do this. How come I don't have a job right now? Well, to get a really good job that you're happy with, and that means a lot of different things for a lot of different people, it requires a lot of effort, and you don't want to be needing to take the first job. You may take it because you need a paycheck, but you want to have the opportunity to find the best possible job for yourself. So you want to spend a lot of time and energy and effort on looking for the work. So that's really important. And the other thing is a system will always beat effort. So you want to create a system, and we're going to talk about that. When you interview, how are you going to dress? I think everyone here is dressed appropriately. That's fantastic. So depending on the kind of job you're interviewing for, you want to dress for the part of the job, right? So if you're interviewing in a company where everyone is wearing a suit, you wear a suit. I always recommend wear a dark suit, white shirt, and a tie, no matter what, if you're looking for a job with a company, because it shows that you took the effort to get dressed for the day. And then now we'll talk a little bit about interviewing and networking. So one of the things that people often think about when looking for work is that they compare themselves to other people that they know that might come from families that have more money, or they're more connected, or their brother might work in a company and they are able to get a job because their brother has this in, or there's some sort of network that they have access to. Well, I'm here to tell you that with your effort, you can create your own network. So, for example, most people don't realize, but just by going to church, you're going to meet people, or a synagogue or a mosque. You are going to meet people who are working in an industry, and you can get to know them, right? So creating your own network of people who can help you find a job is not as difficult as you think. It's simply asking people if they would sit down with you, tell them what you're looking for, what kind of job you're going after, and asking if they would spend 10 minutes with you giving you some advice and hearing what they have to say. And most people, if you come to them with a genuine request to, hey, would you sit down with me for 10 minutes over coffee? I just wanted to get your advice about this. Then you can really network and find people that are willing to help you. So let's go to, we talked about introductions. So what I'd like to do now is if we could discuss, like go around the room and everybody can talk about one thing that they're one thing that they're proud of, or one skill that they've used to help other people. If you want to give it a couple minutes to think, and then we'll go around the room and do that. So one thing that you're proud of, or one skill that you've used to help others. You want to start here, sir?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay. I helped some people do their taxes when I was in FIU.
Okay, great. Okay, fantastic.
Empathy. I have a lot of empathetic. I can exercise empathetic listening with people and listen to them genuinely care about their needs and what they need.
Fantastic. Sir? In the back?
Compassion.
Yes.
Compassion.
Compassion.
And work with that.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. Okay.
Just helping out people when they need help, moving things around.
Help it. Okay, great. Very good.
Growing out of my social anxiety,
Okay.
being able to share my story in front of a lot of people.
Okay, great. Great to be proud of that. Yes.
So I would say motivation because I have a disability, so if I can help anybody else with a disability and know that in terms of you can do it, that'd be great.
Okay, that's great. That's great to be proud of, helping people with that. Fantastic, sir.
I have a good memory. I'm good at remembering certain things people tell me in the past and that I
Okay.
can tell them about it. And I recently just started getting out of my really bad panic attacks and anxiety too.
Okay.
So my social skills are getting a little bit better, but
Okay.
still working.
Okay, good for you. That's good to be proud of.
As far as me, I would say, work-related, I'm a great team leader, and I'm good at motivating my team and keeping morale high and taking pride in what we do.
Okay, great. I could see that. Okay, fantastic. So the message here is that everybody has some skills and abilities, and everyone has a story here worth sharing, and you have abilities that people will want within their companies. And so now it's all about that. You're not starting from zero. You're starting from experience. Everybody here has some level of experience, and there's a lot of value in that. The next part is I want to talk about looking for a job hunting, spending consistent amount of hours, having goals, and tracking your progress. Okay, so on the next page, you can see here that 2 pages later is you have something called the job tracker. Okay, so I want you to imagine that you're like a salesperson. When you're looking for a job, it's really important to keep track of everybody you speak with, and everybody you've connected with, and everybody you've sent a thank you letter to, and everybody you followed up with afterwards. So you can do that on a piece of paper or in an Excel spreadsheet if you're comfortable with Excel, but it's very important to do that. And by having a system where you're keeping track of everything that's going on, it can have a big dramatic impact because you're constantly looking at all the people that you've spoken to in the past and remembering who else you can talk to. So one of the next activity is what I'd like us all to do is to write down 3 specific job types or industries of interest that you would be interested in working in. So you have a piece on the paper, you have 3 lines. So if everybody could please write down the 3 specific job types or industries of interest where they would like to work. And it's okay if you only thought of one, that's fine as well. So why don't we go around and let me hear what you got, what you wrote down.
I wrote down finance, accounting, taxes.
Okay, great, sir.
Case management, addiction counseling, machining, or welding.
Okay, great.
Care place, community outreach, for a lot of them has support, city of Miami.
Okay, fantastic.
Coca-Cola factory, CEO, truck driver, construction.
Okay, great.
I also have caseworker, retail, or not, caseworker, and then I did retail sales and management. I used to, but I haven't done it in a long time.
Okay.
And then electronic sales.
Electronic sales.
Yes.
Okay, great.
I have contractor counselor, peer pressure specialist, and case manager.
Okay, great.
Obviously, HVAC tech, maybe a journeyman, or I did one already, but I used to build grow facilities,
Uh-huh.
so I want to get back into that.
Okay, very great.
Construction industry, private sector inspector, or consultant.
Okay, great. So everybody pick 3, and the trick here is like if you have 3 different types of jobs that you're looking for, you now tripled your efforts because you have 3 different types of companies that you're going to be looking for. That's a lot of work, you know. Like I want to point this out because if somebody picks one industry, then they only have one group of companies to go after. So what I would like you to do now is to take those 3 industries, take the one that's the most interesting to you, and then on the next lines, I would like you to list at least 5 companies that have that kind of position where you could work. Actually, and sir, you mentioned specific companies, like you mentioned the cities and things like that. That's fine. So you went to the next level. So what we want you to do is use Google or ChatGPT if you have your phone with you, and write down 5 companies that you could have that specific role. Use the internet to find 5 companies that you think you could have that specific role at.
Wait, can all of them? Or?
Just pick one. You just pick one, yeah. Pick one of the 3 and then look for 5 companies. I write down 10, but 5 is fine for now. Yeah. And that's okay. If your data's slow, you can do it also afterwards. That's fine. So now you have a list of 5 companies, right? So you really could have a list of 20 companies in that specific industry, probably, right? You can keep going through the internet and find 20 companies, right? But the more focused you are on a very specific type of job, the more likely it is you can get that job, because if you're spread across multiple industries and multiple different types of jobs, you are going to have to learn about multiple industries and multiple different companies that compete with each other. It's going to create a much larger effort on your part if if you want to be in 3 different roles. If you wanted to work for a restaurant and management, and you also wanted to be in HVAC, and you also wanted to do something related to community outreach, you're going to have 3 totally different groups of organizations that you need to study about. So now that you have those companies, you are going to put them into your job tracker, and you're going to start applying for positions at those companies. But even before doing that, you can also make a list of the key people in those companies, and you can send them emails. You can always call the company and say, hey, could I just get the email of this person? I wanted to send them an email. And you can find the names of the key people, usually on the internet, and you can write them a very simple introductory email. Say, hey, I'm interviewing with HVAC companies, and I was wondering if I could come by your office and introduce myself if you have 10 minutes for a coffee. And believe it or not, people will meet with you. So this is, but the more companies you have, the more effort this is. But this is creating a funnel of different companies that you can apply for, and it's very important to keep track of them. So my recommendation is to try to pick one industry and one role that you really want and go for that. And hopefully there are enough companies that you can go after. And usually there's dozens of companies that you can go after to get that specific position. Okay. And then we talked about being consistent. So one of the things that you can remember is whatever is practical for you, because you may have other responsibilities, but try to be consistent. Like if you know that you have an hour every day, then make a list of 2 things that you're going to do every single day. I'm going to apply to 2 new jobs every day, and I'm going to send 2 new emails asking for people to meet with me for coffee, or I'm going to find 2 new companies every day that I'm going to apply to. But make a list of the things that you'll do every day that are depending on the amount of time that you have. And be persistent and check the box that you've done it every single day. And that will lead to results, because you are being consistent and doing it every single day. All right. We went over this job tracker. So systems do beat luck, and effort matters. So that's the important takeaway there. Next time I have an example cover letter and a resume, okay? And you'll get a free copy of my book, but this cover letter and resume is a generic cover and letter and resume. The cover letter talks about your skills and abilities, so and the resume talks about the things that you have done, okay? And so I know that you'll be building this. They'll be building the resumes with other people, yes. And so you'll have a resume, and I'm giving you these as examples, but I want to just talk a little bit about how resumes become more effective. What is it in the resume that differentiates one from another? And one of the important things to do is to provide evidence in anything that you say about yourself, okay? So the first thing I want you to do is, if anybody remembers anything that they've done at any of their companies, please write down a bullet point from your own resume. Could you write down any bullet point about any position you've ever had, and just put that on this page, which is here, this page. Right here, it says here, write down a bullet point from your own resume right here on this document. So like pick any job that you've had, and like you might, and write down the bullet point that you had there. Yes, sir.
If I won, let's say, ABC Eagle Award for structure of the multifamily.
Yes.
That would be a bulletin point?
Yes, it could be, absolutely.
I'm lost.
So if you look at your, does everybody already have a resume here in the classroom? Yes.
Yeah, I have a resume.
Okay, so if you look at your own resume, or you can even off the top of your head remember any bullet point that you wrote about any job that you held, anything that you wrote about your position. So here, for example, in this person's resume that's here on the document here, you have a girl named Erica. So she has a bullet point here for under Erica's accessories. She wrote jewelry and accessory buyer overseeing more than 500,000 annual purchases. That's just a bullet point. So just pick any bullet point from your own experience, okay, and write it down there. Okay, it looks like everyone is mostly done. So I want to go to this page now here. It says activity here. On the page, you have this page here. So you've all written resumes in the past, and one of the things that people write pretty consistently in their resume is they'll make a claim in their resume, like developed expertise in whatever, and they don't provide any specific evidence. So one of the things that we can do is look at our own bullet points, but let's study this bullet point first. Manage the restaurant kitchen. Okay, that's like somebody's generic bullet point. That is saying I manage the restaurant kitchen, but it's not providing the person who's reviewing it any qualified or quantified evidence that shows that they really know how to manage the kitchen. So when you read through your own resume, so a way to improve that specific bullet point would be manage a kitchen team of 5 to serve 100 residents daily, improving service time by 20%. Okay, so what this is doing is showing somebody who's reading the bullet point that I'm providing quantifiable and qualifiable evidence that I really do know how to manage a kitchen. So can you all read your own bullet points now and look at them and see if there's a way for you to improve your own bullet point by adding any evidence that has numbers in it, quantifiably or qualifiably, that there were results related to what you did. So if you can read your own bullet point that you wrote and see how you can improve it to provide the kind of evidence that would make it more quantifiable or qualify evidence that shows that you actually have that skill and ability. That's right.
Can I read one to you? I got
Yeah.
the resume here.
Yeah, sure.
Manage all on-site operations, including scheduling, subcontractor coordination, and materials management, ensuring each project adhered to timelines and budgets.
Right, so that's a great bullet point, and you could improve it by adding the numbers. Managed 7 subcontractors, including 65 employees, with the results of X, Y, and Z. So what you're doing is providing data related to what you've done, which gives the evidence that you have those abilities, that you have completed the tasks. But that's a great example of a bullet point that can be improved by adding some numbers to it to show what you've actually done practically, because that gives them a way to understand your skills and abilities versus somebody else who might write almost the same thing but only have managed 2 subcontractors. There are only 10 employees. You have 100 employees. There's nuances to all the data.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Does anyone else does anyone want to read the bullet points that they have now? Any improved bullet points?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So I had originally overseen the CNC fabrications production, but with the suggestion you made, I revised it as supervised and edited CNC programs for fabrication, improving production by 50%, which I actually did by turning up revolutions, speeding up the production, cutting out certain steps that the CNC had to make, and overall improving the production.
Great. Anyone else want to share their bullet point?
So the generic first?
Yeah, you can just share the generic and then they
The
improve.
generic was that I was a certified recovery mentor in Oregon.
Okay.
So what that actually meant though was that the improved was that I was responsible for 8 or more clients and assisted all of them through job applications, school enrollment, housing, all legal issues, and getting them back on their life plan.
Fantastic. Anyone else? Does everyone understand the task and how they can improve their bullet points? Anybody have any questions about that? No? Okay, great. This is really important because this gives an interviewer, when they're looking at your resume, it's some teeth into the things that you did. Okay, well, you just provide numbers. It provides evidence. It's interesting, like it's, if you manage the restaurant, somebody can write the same thing and they're managing a restaurant that has 2 employees or managing a restaurant that has a front desk and hundreds of employees and dozens of chefs. You don't know until you provide the evidence. Yes, sir.
How does this sound? As a utility worker, I was responsible for several assigned areas requiring cleanliness, product availability, and customer and security services while working at the Fort Lauderdale International Airport.
Yeah, that's very good. Absolutely, yeah. So you could have added the square footage of the location. Yeah, there are things that you can do to show like the scope of what you're doing, or that or the number of hours, or the improvements. Think about it like that. Like you're trying to share what you do to give people a frame of reference. Yes, sir.
Well, for my improved bullet point, I would like to ask, how would you show that my improvement is improving for the bookkeeping?
Mm-hmm. So read me your original bullet point.
For my improved point?
The first one and the improved one, yes.
Oh, the first one, I thought I was just going to have the same bookkeeping from bachelor's degree. And then my improved bullet point was go get my master's in graduate school for bookkeeping.
Okay, very good. So you've given some more additional information. So you could also add the number of hours that you spent working on that, or the grades that you received, or the number of students that were in the class and what position you were in the class. There are different things that you can add that give people a frame of reference that are quantifiable. But that's very good.
Okay.
Yes. Anyone else? Okay, we go to the next topic here. We spoke about this networking and outreach. What I'd like you to do now is one of the important things is making connections with people that could lead to potential opportunities. So how often do you speak with people and introduce who you are and what you're looking for? So what I'd like everyone to do is just break into groups of, you're already in 2. So if you can tell the other person your name, where you work, and what opportunity you're looking for, and just practice saying that to each other. Okay. In groups of 2, if you could say that to groups of 2. Okay, very good. So I was listening to all the things you're all saying, and you do a great job of introducing yourselves to each other. But it's important to be able to practice that and be ready to say things to, this is my background, this is what I'm currently doing, this is the opportunities I'm looking for, and be able to say that casually and easily to people that you meet. So whoever it might be, because you never know what kind of opportunities can come just from networking. So now we're going to talk about the STAR method, which is a STAR method was developed to answer questions in a behavioral setting. And if you go to, let's see, page, page 5. Yeah, this here. It says step 5. The STAR method is a simple, powerful framework for answering interview questions and showcasing your experience with clarity and impact. So employers love it because it gives them concrete proof that you actually are capable and qualified for the job, for real situations. So like here's an example that we can go over together, and then I would like you to each work on your own answers. But the first one is somebody who was in cleaning and janitorial work. So the way the STAR method works is STAR is STAR. That acronym STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. So in terms of situations, this is where you want to explain what the situation was to give some clarity. So here, in this example, the janitor says, "I worked at a small cleaning company that had too many places to clean in one day." Okay. Task: I needed to finish in my area fast, but also still do a good job. Okay. So there was a situation and there was a task that he had. Action: I made a routine. I started with the bathrooms, then the floors, and then the trash, and stuck by it every single day. Okay, that was the action that the person took. And the result: I finished on time, I never missed a spot, and my boss gave me more hours because he trusted me. Okay, so when you're answering a behavioral question about tell me about what you did at this company, or tell me about a situation, or anything that you're proud of, using the STAR response is a great way to show the interviewer that you can prove that you were, in this case, he was showing that he's reliable, that he's efficient, and that he has a strong work ethic. So let's look at another example on the next page. Restaurant, dishwasher, and busser. Okay, here this is a person working in a restaurant. I was working in a small restaurant during busy hours. They needed, that's the situation. So you're right away putting the person who's interviewing you in understanding what the situation was that you were in when you're answering the question. So you're giving them a frame of reference of where you are. That's the S in STAR is situation. T for task: they needed somebody to keep dishes moving so that the cooks didn't fall behind. That was the task that was at hand. Okay, that's T for task and STAR. And then A, action: I stayed focused, worked quickly, and helped wipe tables when the dining room got crowded. Okay, and R, results: the kitchen never ran out of clean dishes, and the manager told me I helped the whole place run smoother. All right, so here, S is situation, T is task, A is action, and R is result. And what does this person show by answering in this way? That he is good at teamwork, he's good at hustling, and he has the ability to handle pressure. Okay, so now we're on the next page. Quarterly sales, one more example, we'll go through it. S for situation: set the scene, briefly describe this person is briefly describing the context so the interviewer understands the background. Our team was missing quarterly sales targets due to slow lead follow-up. That's the situation. The task: I was responsible for improving the response speed and increasing conversations. That's the task. Action: I redesigned the follow-up workflow and automated the first touch using our CRM and created a training for our reps. And our results: as a result, our follow-up time improved by 50% and quarterly sales increased by 18%. So no matter how complicated a job is or how simple a job is, when somebody asks you what you did in the past, you can use the STAR method to give an answer that shows that you have credibility, reliability, that you are a hard worker, that you are goal-oriented, that you can get results. And so the STAR is S for situation, T for task, A for action, and R for results. So on the next page, you have a one-page worksheet where I'd like you to think about any job that you've had in the past and what the situation was. Write down the situation, then write down the task, write down the action that you took, and write down the results. Okay? So any job that you've had, go do this yourself, and we'll take 5 minutes to do that, and then we'll reconvene. Okay. Well, I know you all continue to think about this for every answer that every question that you receive. But is there somebody here that would like to go over their answer in the STAR way? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you could just say the situation, task, and go through that, that would be great.
Situation was there was a building in Texas that needed to be reframed, exterior walls, after EFIS was installed. The task was to correct the issue, maintain good relationship with owner, and maintain schedule.
Okay.
Action was came up with plan to rework with minimal impact to schedule and minimize the manpower.
Okay.
Result was we maintained overall schedule, kept relationship in good standings.
Great. So there was a question, somebody asked you what you did at this job. You used the STAR system to answer. You talked about the situation. You talked about the task. You talked about what the action was, what you did, and you talked about the results. The results, that's where most candidates fail to provide that part of the answer. And that's very critical because you want to show the results to prove that you actually had a positive impact on whatever the task was. Anyone else would like to give? Yes, sir.
I was working for a big company. It was my situation. I was
Okay.
working for a big company who needed reliable drivers and driving the crazy weather. Task. They needed someone to haul freight between Chicago and Pennsylvania in dangerous weather and get freight there safely. Action. I stayed focused, maintaining a safe and transferable freight between the two states in considerable time. Result, the company could rely on me and I got the job done.
Fantastic. Great. Yes, sir.
Groundskeeper at the carrying place, preparing for all events. That's the situation. Task, making sure all areas of concern are ready and presentable, clean for the event. Action, cutting and weeding grass in areas needed, blowing trash and leaves, picking up all trash and debris, pressure washing needed areas. That was my action. And the result, groundskeeping preparations are completed. All areas are clean and ready for use as needed for the specific time and event.
That's fantastic. So he used the STAR system. He talked about the situation, the task, the action, and the results that everything was completed and the grounds were clean. That's fantastic. Okay. So you understand now this is a behavioral way to answer questions that are related to what you've accomplished in the past that shows the interviewer that you know what the situation was, that you understood what the task at hand was, you took action and there were results. So whenever you're looking at talking about anything, that is a good framework to be able to answer questions. Anybody have any questions about the system for answering? Okay. All right. Now what I'd like you all to do is on the next page, take these empty lines and write down an introduction about yourself that you would use at the beginning of an interview. So I want you to talk about what you're presently doing, what you've done in the past, and what you're looking to be doing in the future. So if you could please write down for yourself. Okay, let's I'd like everyone to go around the room and just read their answer. Yes, sir. You want to start first?
So, my name is Tony. I'm 34 years of age. I'm from Miami-Dade County right now. I'm seeking employment from CRST Trucking. Before this, I worked at PTE Post-Tension Engineering, where I learned about tension cables and how they play a part in this construction. My next move is to try to see if I can take that take that education that I've gotten on PTE and use that in trucking.
Fantastic. So you're going to take that answer, you're going to practice it in the mirror, you're going to make it a little more casual and easy, and you're going to be ready to say that anytime you're in an interview, because that's, you know, a little bit about yourself. You give somebody a general overview of who you are, what you're currently doing, and what you're looking for. Sir, do you want to read yours now?
My name is Willie Burgess. I'm age 56. I'm a recent excuse me. Can I reread? My name is Willie Burgess. I'm age 56. I'm a recent graduate of the carrying place in Miami. I have worked previous in the airport industry as well as security for several recovery addiction programs. It is my aim through these experiences to obtain meaningful employment and to personally help others through commitment and dedication.
Fantastic. So you'll take that. Now, it's great that you put everything in writing. You'll practice it in the mirror so you can say it casually and easily to people. Yes, sir. Yeah.
My name is Emmanuel. I've been keeping donations and volunteer areas clean for 3 months now. Before that, I got associated with the government in downtown Miami. I learned how to work in a business environment and making financial papers work. I'm excited to get an opportunity to learn more about accounting from STU.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Yes, sir.
In the past, I've excelled in many types of jobs. Now I'm looking for a career change in the field of addiction counseling and case management. In the near future, I'm getting a board certification and currently am training, interning at the Caring Place in this field.
Okay, great. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Scott. I am currently interning at the Caring Place in the media department. I spent the last 10 plus years working as a chef and a kitchen manager. I also have a lot of experience in multiple fields, including peer support and case management, and I'm looking for a challenging new role in a nonprofit organization.
Fantastic. Sir?
I've been in customer service / cash register for years, but I'm taking on a new phase where I would like to communicate with others who are disabled and like to motivate them within counseling. So I would like to go to school for not physical, but for counseling and hopefully find a position and opportunity where I can grow.
Okay, great.
Hi, my name is William. I'm currently doing volunteer work, and I'm looking for work in the HVAC industry. I have 4 years experience. I'm currently enrolled in HVAC school and would like to further my career in the field.
Okay, great. So you talked about what he's currently doing, what he did in the past, and what he's looking to do in the future. Absolutely, yes.
Okay. My name is Freddie. I've been in the construction industry for over 30 years. I am currently looking for a strong company that I could work on great projects as a superintendent and be able to grow and retire with.
Great. Okay, great. So everybody has an answer here, and the important thing is to have a answer that you've rehearsed that's easy for you to say, right? So you want to, whenever somebody says, tell me about yourself, or if you start the interview and you say, hey, before you ask questions, I'm happy just to tell you a little bit about myself, you can give them a 2-minute answer, 2 to 5 minute answer that's very quick, that talks about what you're currently doing, what you did in the past, and what you're looking for. So, and that's something that you can write down. Today you wrote it down very quickly, casually in this class, but you could rewrite it in a way that's more easy for you to say and practice it in the mirror and be prepared. And the more you practice it, the more easy it'll be for you when you're in an interview, because then you'll just be able to say it. So it's a very short amount of words, correct? It's 2 to 5 minutes. You all wrote it down very quickly. You can refine it and give it more thought, and maybe you'll come up with a little bit different answer now, when you're not in a classroom under a short amount of time. But practice it in the mirror and be prepared to give that answer, at the beginning of an interview, who you are. Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions to ask at the end?
Yeah, that's also a very good point. So most interviewers will, if they have the time, will say, do you have any questions for me at the end of the interview? So you should have some questions prepared, okay? And those questions really depend on the kind of role, the company. It could be some generic questions like, does the company offer health care? Or how have you liked working at this company compared to where you worked in the past? You can ask somebody. What is it about the company that you love? You can ask them. You could you ask them a question that makes them feel like you care about what they think. So there are a lot of different kinds of questions you ask, but you should always be ready to have some questions at the end of the interview. Again, this goes to show people that you are really interested in the job and that you care, and that you came prepared even with questions that you want answers to. Okay, so that's important. I think pretty much we've covered everything at this point. Your past doesn't define your potential. Your next action does. So what we reviewed today, we reviewed resumes a bit, interviewing, how to introduce yourself, having a system to look for your job, the amount of effort that's needed in the job, some tricks and tips on things that you can do to stay in touch with people. And I was very pleased everybody was completing everything well. And we'll send you a free copy of the book so they can read it at their leisure. Does anybody have any other questions for me at this time?
Not really a question. I like that whole STAR system. That's really an interesting way of being able to kind of formulate a good response. kind of help with the story piece. 'Cause that's
Yeah.
something I always struggle with, is that little bit of, it's hard for me to really try to sell myself in a without being like, it's hard to talk really good about myself. I
Mhm.
like to brag.
Right.
So that's an interesting way of being able to kind of get that point across, but still keep it organized.
Yes. So when you're going through and thinking about interviewing, to your point, every single job that you've had, you should be able to answer a question about what you did there using the STAR system. So you can take all the jobs you've had, take the STAR system, write down the situation, write down the task, write down the action, write down the results for every single job that you've had on your resume. That way, if they say, hey, tell me a little bit about what you did at this company that I see you in 2005. So you can say, oh yeah, I'll tell you what I did there. Here's the situation. This is what I was dealing with. This is the task that I had. This is what action I took, and here are the results. And it's a powerful way of making to show people that you have good cognitive ability, and you have the ability to get things done.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming today. I appreciate your time.